The knife rested beside the roast, its edge catching the soft kitchen light. Steam curled upward, slow and quiet, disappearing before it reached the ceiling fan. The smell of rosemary lingered in the air, warm, patient, almost forgiving. I sat there for a while, listening to the hum of the heater and the faint sound of laughter from upstairs. It was the kind of laughter that travels through walls, but never quite makes it to your heart. The room was too bright, too polite, like everyone inside had forgotten who first built the walls that held them. Through the window, the porch lights I hung years ago still clung to the railing, half dead, but still fighting the dark. I could see my reflection in the glass, a man fading at the edges, but not gone. People say silence keeps the peace, but sometimes silence is just how a man stays standing. The roast had been cooling for a while, its scent mixing with rosemary and the faint sweetness of the glaze Melissa liked to use when she wanted a dinner to feel special. The roast had been cooling for a while, its scent mixing with rosemary and the faint sweetness of the glaze Melissa liked to use when she wanted a dinner to feel special. Outside, the cold North Carolina air pressed against the windows, the December wind whispering through the pine trees out back. From where I sat, I could see the string of lights I hung years ago still clinging to the porch railing, half the bulbs gone, but stubbornly glowing. Inside the house felt almost too warm, the kind of warmth that makes you sleepy if you sit still too long. Melissa moved around the kitchen with practiced confidence, wine glass in hand, checking the roast one last time before calling everyone to the table. Her voice was soft, cheerful, the kind of tone people use when they want to sound generous. Evan carved the meat. He looked tired, though he wouldn't admit it. His hair had thinned near the temples, his shoulders a little rounder. He caught my eye once, and smiled faintly before looking away the same way a man looks at a photograph he doesn't want to study too closely. Lily sat across from me, coloring on a paper placemat, humming to herself. Her crayon squeaked against the paper green and red lines, twisting into something she called a Christmas tree. She looked up when I reached for the mashed potatoes and grinned as I spooned some onto her plate before touching mine. When we bowed our heads for grace, Evan mumbled something short, a quick thank you for family and food. Lily added softly that she was thankful Grandpa came for dinner. Melissa laughed a sound light as glass and said that was sweet. We began to eat. The usual small talk filled the room, predictable as the ticking clock over the doorway. Melissa spoke about a new client at her marketing firm, some wellness brand looking for a fresh image. Evan nodded in the right places, his eyes on his plate. The conversation floated over me like steam, pleasant enough, but without warmth. The clock ticked on. I could hear the soft hum of the refrigerator and the muted wind pressing against the siding. Every sound in that house was familiar, every creak in the floorboard, every hum in the wall. I built those walls myself. Lily put her crayon down. She asked if she could skip helping set the table next time because she had too much homework. Her voice was small but firm, the way children test how much ground they can claim. I smiled and said gently, "When your dad was your age, I used to make him help clean up after dinner. Wipe the table, stack the plates. Chores aren't punishment. They teach you that you belong somewhere." Lily looked unsure. Her eyes moved to her mother. Melissa's fork paused mid-air. She set it down slowly, fingers grazing the stem of her wine glass. "Harold," she said softly, "you don't have to worry about that. We've got it covered. Parenting is different now." I nodded, not wanting to push. "I just meant chores never hurt anyone," I said. "They help kids learn responsibility." Her smile held polite and steady. "Sure," she said, "but kids today have enough to handle. School activities, screens. It's not like when you were raising Evan. Things are a little more complicated now." The way she said it, calm measured, made the room feel smaller. Like the years between us were walls we'd built without noticing. Evan didn't say anything. He cut another slice of meat, his face unreadable. Lily asked for more potatoes. Melissa leaned over to help her, speaking lightly. "Grandpa just likes the old way of doing things, sweetie. He means well." I felt the words settle in the space between us. The clink of forks, the scrape of plates, the hum of the dishwasher waiting to start. I took a drink of water. My hands looked older than I remembered under the yellow light, the lines deeper, the veins raised like the grain of an old oak board. These hands had built this table, this floor, these walls. They had built the roof that now sheltered 3 generations. Melissa's eyes drifted around the dining room, the crown molding the recessed lighting the hardwood I'd laid by hand. Her smile softened, almost affectionate. Then she said, still smiling, "It must feel strange being retired with nothing left to fix." She said it like a joke, but the silence after wasn't friendly. Evan's fork slipped against the plate. He didn't look up. The sound it made was small, but sharp, the kind of noise that sticks in the air. I finished my meal quietly. Years of life have taught me the strength in saying nothing. Noise fades, but silence holds shape. When dinner ended, I stood to clear my plate. Melissa told me I didn't need to still smiling without meeting my eyes. I said I knew, and carried the dishes anyway. Evan took Lily upstairs to brush her teeth. Melissa stayed at the table scrolling her phone while the dishwasher hummed to life. I walked down the short hallway past their framed photos, past the thermostat I'd installed years ago, its screen glowing faint blue. The walls smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and something floral that wasn't mine. My room was the small one off the garage. They called it my space when they offered it to me, like independence was a gift they could grant. It smelled of paint and sawdust, a scent that still reminded me of work of purpose. On the filing cabinet sat a manila envelope, edges worn soft from years of handling. I took it down, sat on the bed, and slid the papers out. The title company's seal, my signature, the description of the lot. My name still printed clear at the top. Harold Mason, owner of record. I ran a finger along the edge of the page. I remembered the day Mary and I signed it. She'd teased me for double-checking every line. She used to say, "A house remembers the hands that build it." Maybe that's why this one still creaks in the same places where my boots once stood. Through the wall, I could hear Melissa's laughter, light and distant, mixing with the sound of a television show. It drifted through the vents like a memory I hadn't invited back. I slid the deed back into the envelope and placed it carefully in the drawer. The old clock in the hall ticked steady, indifferent counting time that didn't belong to anyone. They think I'm useless, I thought, but the floor under their feet still carries my name. Outside, the wind brushed the bare branches against the siding. Inside, the laughter faded, replaced by the hum of the furnace. I sat for a long while, listening to the house breathe. It wasn't anger that I felt. It wasn't revenge either. It was the quiet before a change. Morning arrived without ceremony, just a thin light pressing through the blinds and the low hum of the heater coming to life. The air was dry, smelling faintly of dust and coffee. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands resting on my knees, listening to the quiet rhythm of the house. From the living room came laughter, faint at first, then clearer. Melissa's voice carried easily smooth and practiced. Evan's voice followed lower worn at the edges. Then came Lily's giggle bright as a bird call. I smiled before I realized it, though the sound felt far away, like it came from another house entirely. I pulled on my jacket and stepped into the hall. The morning light spread across the hardwood floor I'd laid 20 years ago, each line of grain leading me forward. The kitchen was alive with motion. Evan pouring coffee, Melissa packing Lily's lunch. The smell of toast and detergent mingled with the faint chill leaking in from the back door. Evan looked up briefly. "Morning, Dad. Coffee's in the pot." "Thanks," I said, and poured myself a cup. Melissa was helping Lily with her coat. The little girl's hair caught the light, soft and gold like her grandmother's. She smiled at me as I leaned against the counter mug, warm in my hands. "You have your homework, Lily?" I asked. "Got it?" She tapped her backpack proudly. Melissa glanced my way, polite as ever. "We're running late, Harold. No hurry," I said. "The bus is always 5 minutes behind." She blinked, surprised that I still remembered. Then she smiled, but only halfway. Lily waved before they left, her mittened hand bright against the doorframe. "Bye, Grandpa." I waved back, the door closing behind her voice. The house grew still again. Evan rinsed his plate. The sound of running water filling the kitchen. He looked tired, though he wouldn't admit it. "You sleep all right?" he asked. "Fine. You?" "Long week ahead," he said, and set the plate down. The faucet squeaked off. He dried his hands, gave me a faint nod, and walked out. His truck engine coughed twice before settling into a low rumble that faded down the street. When silence returned, it stayed longer than usual. I stood at the window, watching the condensation fade from the glass. Outside, the light was flat and gray, the kind that never commits to being day. The yard looked smaller somehow, though nothing had changed. I carried my coffee into the garage, where the air still smelled of pine and oil. The workbench sat the same as always, tools hanging in quiet rows, each one with its own ghost of use. I traced a finger along the edge of the table, the grain smooth and familiar. It had been a long time since I'd built anything worth keeping. I missed the honesty of it, the way wood listened. Measure twice, cut once. My father taught me that. It was how I'd built this house for Evan and his new bride years ago, the day he brought her home, still bright with pride. I could almost hear Mary's voice again, the way she'd stood beside me when we broke ground. Her hair pulled back under her hat, eyes narrowing against the sun. "Don't give away everything, Harold. Love makes people careless." She said it with warmth, not warning. But I'd heard what I wanted to hear back then, that love meant giving all you had. I didn't understand until much later that giving everything leaves you with nothing to hold on to. A knock on the side door pulled me out of the thought. Tom Bradford stepped in, shaking the cold from his jacket. He carried 2 paper cups from the diner, steam curling into the air. His grin was the same as it had been 30 years ago, though his shoulders had slumped with age. "Brought you the good stuff," he said, handing me a cup. "None of that weak brew you make in the kitchen." I smiled. "Thought you swore off caffeine." I did. Then I retired. Turns out I can't stand decaf and silence. He took a sip and looked around the garage. "The place still looks like a man's space," he said. "You've kept it cleaner than your old office." "Easier to manage," I said. "Fewer people lying." Tom chuckled. "You always did talk like a closing argument." He grew quiet for a moment, studying me. "You're holding too much silence, Harold. It's all I have left that still means something I said." He didn't argue. He just nodded slowly, tapping his fingers on the cup. "You know, Melissa mentioned at the market they might refinance." "That true?" I looked up. "First I've heard." Tom watched my face the way a man reads a weather map. "I wouldn't worry yet," he said. "Just remember, paperwork has memory." He left soon after, his boots crunching over the frosted driveway. I stood in the doorway watching him go, the cold air biting at my throat. The snow started to fall, thin, uncertain flakes twisting in the wind, the kind that never sticks but leaves a mark anyway. I stayed there until the cold made my fingers ache, then went back to my room. Inside, the air was still. The heater clicked softly, followed by the slow exhale of warmth through the vents. On the desk sat the manila envelope. I pulled it open, smoothing the papers beneath my hand. The deed worn at the edges, but the name was still clear. My name. I traced each letter, feeling the indentation through the paper. A man's name doesn't carry much anymore. But on a page like this, it still counts for something. The heater clicked off, leaving the faint buzz of quiet behind. I thought about Mary again, about her hands resting on mine that day. A house remembers the hands that build it, she'd said. Maybe that's why this one still creaks where my boots once stood. Outside, a car door slammed somewhere down the street. The sound folded into the quiet like it belonged there. I folded the papers carefully and slid them back into the envelope. My hand rested on it a moment longer than it needed to. The drawer closed with a soft click. The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It had weight, but not sorrow. It felt steady, like something that knew its own place. I noticed Lily's pencil on the desk, the one she'd left after drawing yesterday. I picked it up, set it by her backpack near the hall. She'd find it later, and no one would say how it got there. Back in the room, the coffee had gone cold. I sat down, watching the thin light through the blinds shift as the day settled deeper. The house held still, breathing with me. Somewhere upstairs, a door closed softly, the sound folding back into the quiet. And for the first time in years, that silence didn't feel empty. It felt like a beginning. The sound of the mail truck came around 11, slow and familiar tires pressing into the gravel like it knew every rut of the driveway. The air outside was sharp and clean, the kind that makes you feel both alive and tired at the same time. I stepped out to get the mail, my breath visible in the cold. The trees stood still against a pale winter sky. Most of it was junk bills, offers I'd never use. But one envelope stood out, a plain white one, with my name printed neat in black. No return address, just a faint logo pressed in the corner. Heritage Mortgage Solutions. I turned it over once before opening it. The paper inside was thick, expensive. It smelled faintly of toner and something sterile like the air inside a bank. The letter was addressed to me, but it spoke of something else, an application for refinancing this house under the names of Evan and Melissa Mason. $80,000. Collateral 214 Maple Drive. My name was still listed as the legal owner. No transfer ever filed. I stood by the kitchen window for a long while, reading it again. The light outside moved across the yard in slow bands, fading toward the trees. The house made its usual sounds, the pipes sighing, the floorboards breathing, but something underneath all that had shifted. I thought of the day I'd signed the first loan for this house, back when my hands still carried the smell of pine and sweat. The banker had called it a fine investment. I'd called it a promise. Mary had stood beside me, smiling that tired smile of hers, the one that said she knew more than I did, but wouldn't stop me. "Don't give away everything, Harold. Love makes people careless." She'd said it softly, but I heard it again now, clear as if she were standing right behind me. I could have gone upstairs, confronted Evan, demanded an explanation. But what would I be asking for truth or permission to be angry? Instead, I folded the letter, pressed the crease flat, and set it on the counter beside the sink. There's a kind of strength in waiting, watching what people do when they think you're blind. That evening, I stayed downstairs while the rest of the house filled with sound. The smell of dinner drifted through the vents, roast chicken, the kind Mary used to make on Sundays. I heard Melissa laughing, then Evan saying something I couldn't quite catch. Lily's voice rose above them both, singing to herself, off-key and perfect. The laughter faded. Then, through the thin vent above my desk, I heard Melissa's voice again, lower this time, steady and certain. By next summer, this house will finally be ours. Evan doesn't need his dad's old name on it forever. The words hit harder than any insult. They were clean, deliberate, practiced. I sat still, the screwdriver loose in my hand, and stared at the half-fixed drawer in front of me. Ours. It wasn't about money. It was about erasing me. The sound of her laughter after that felt like a nail sealing something shut. When the house went quiet, I climbed the short steps to the kitchen. The air was warm, heavy with the last trace of dinner. The lamp over the sink threw a thin circle of light onto the counter. That's when I saw it, the business card tucked beneath a grocery list. Heritage Mortgage Solutions. Same logo. I picked it up. The name printed in blue ink belonged to someone in Raleigh. The card smelled faintly of perfume. Melissa's perfume. I turned it over once more, then set it back where I found it. Evan's truck lights flashed across the blinds as he pulled into the drive. The engine cut off the silence following like a breath held too long. Their voices carried through the front hall, hers tight, his quiet. He said something about timing. She said something about finally being free of old ties. I turned off the kitchen light and went back to my room. The darkness felt cleaner than the glow upstairs. On my desk sat the manila envelope. I took out the deed again, laid it beside the mortgage letter. 2 papers that told different stories about the same place. One held my name. The other tried to forget it. I ran my fingers across the letters of my name, feeling the slight emboss under the ink. Paper keeps its shape longer than love. I sat there remembering the day I built the front porch, the smell of sawdust, the sound of Mary laughing as she brought me lemonade. Evan had been a boy then, running barefoot through the yard, chasing a hammer I'd left in the grass. He'd said he wanted to build houses like me one day. I'd believed him. The heater came alive, filling the room with its slow hum. I folded both papers together, careful and deliberate, like wrapping something fragile. I slipped them into the inside pocket of my jacket and buttoned it closed. Outside, the wind was rising again. I could hear it pushing against the siding, making the eaves moan softly. The house felt alive, aware somehow, as if it understood what was happening within its walls. Upstairs, I heard the faint sound of Lily's footsteps crossing the hallway, followed by the creak of her bedroom door. A soft lullaby hummed from a cheap speaker, her mother's voice joining for a verse before fading out. I stayed seated, eyes fixed on the small crack that ran down the wall near the baseboard, a thin, dark line that had grown over the years. I'd meant to fix it once, but never did. Maybe I knew it belonged there. Maybe every house keeps its own truth hidden in the walls. The air grew still. The wind quieted outside. I reached into my jacket pocket, felt the folded paper between my fingers, solid and patient. The first quiet move had begun. The morning light slipped through the narrow window of the garage, brushing across the workbench where I had left the old hammer the night before. The air smelled faintly of oil and pine, the scent of a life built by hand. I sat there for a long time, the envelope from the bank resting beside my coffee cup, edges soft from being folded too many times. A draft moved under the door, carrying the dry rustle of winter leaves. I traced the grain of the wooden table with my thumb and thought of the woman who used to sit across from me in the mornings. Mary never liked silence, not the kind that lingered too long. She used to say silence can grow heavy if you don't fill it with something kind. I wondered what she would have said now, watching me sit here listening to nothing but my own thoughts. I took a deep breath, stood, and reached for my jacket. The road out of town was still damp from last night's rain, and the tires hummed low against the asphalt. When I pulled into the diner off Route 12, Tom's old Chevy was already parked outside the one with the rust creeping up the fender. Inside, the place looked exactly as it had 20 years ago. The same dull neon sign flickered above the counter. The same waitress with tired eyes poured coffee without needing to ask. Tom sat in his usual corner, a half-read newspaper in front of him. He looked up as I walked in, nodding like he'd been expecting me. I slid into the booth across from him and placed the letter on the table. He adjusted his glasses, the paper trembling slightly in his hand as he read. The clatter of plates and the hiss of the coffee machine filled the silence. When he finally looked up, his voice was calm. "They can't touch your house, Harold. The title's still yours." I nodded slowly. "I don't want to ruin them, Tom. I just want them to remember who built their roof." He stirred his coffee, the spoon ringing softly against the mug. "You always were too patient," he said. "People mistake that for weakness. Maybe that's the point." He smiled, just a flicker, before reaching into his coat pocket for a pen. "What's your move, then?" "Something quiet," I said. "Something that reminds them truth still has a backbone." We wrote the letter right there on the diner table. The paper was thin, but the ink felt heavier than anything I'd signed in years. A simple title verification addressed to the bank stating the obvious: the property still belonged to me. Tom read it over twice, then slid it back. "It's clean, precise. It'll stop them cold." I took a sip of my coffee. It had gone cold. Outside, a semi-truck rolled past, spraying water from its tires, shaking the windows. For a moment, we both watched the road quiet. "You sure about this?" Tom asked. I folded the letter, pressed my hand against it. "Yeah, I'm sure." He nodded. "Guess that hammer of yours still fits your hand." It was almost noon when I left the diner. The sky hung low and gray, the kind that made everything look still. I drove home slower than usual. The radio murmured a song I couldn't place, something old enough to sound like memory. When I turned onto the street, I saw the balloons first. Red, blue, gold tied to the mailbox. Laughter spilled out from the open front door. I had forgotten it was Lily's birthday. Through the kitchen window, I saw Melissa arranging cupcakes on a tray, her hair tied back, her voice bright. Evan stood outside at the grill, laughing too loud. There were neighbors I didn't recognize, people who probably thought this house belonged to them. I stayed in the garage, watching from the edge of shadow. My hands reached for the hammer on instinct. I ran a cloth over it, tracing the smooth handle that had outlasted 30 years of work. The hammer wasn't a weapon, not even a tool anymore. It was proof of the life I'd built, of what steady hands could make when anger wasn't part of the process. The sound of laughter drifted through the open window, carrying something hollow with it. Melissa's voice rose again, cheerful, commanding, and for a second I saw her reflection in the glass, confident, unshakable. The kind of person who never thought about what held the ground beneath her. I looked down at the hammer one last time, set it gently back in its place, and walked toward the kitchen. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I sat alone at the table. The house was finally quiet. Streamers hung limply from the ceiling fan, the smell of frosting and grilled meat still in the air. I looked at the clock, 11:37, and then at the envelope resting beside me. For a moment, I hesitated. Mary's voice came back to me soft and familiar. "Fix things, Harold. Don't fight them." I smiled faintly. I sealed the envelope, pressing my thumb along the flap until it held tight. The sound of it sticking felt final, like the end of a long-held breath. Outside, the night air was cool and smelled faintly of rain. The street was empty. I walked to the mailbox at the end of the driveway. The streetlight buzzed above, throwing a pale glow over the pavement. I could still see the marks on the wood where I'd built that box decades ago. I slid the letter in, felt it drop to the bottom, and stood there for a while. Upstairs, a single light flickered in Lily's room. I could hear her laugh in her sleep, the sound light and unguarded. If Mary could see me now, she'd call it fixing, not fighting. I turned back toward the house. The windows glowed faintly in the dark, warm and distant. Inside that light was everything I had ever built, even if they'd forgotten it. They thought my silence was surrender. But it was just the sound of something solid being built. I went back into the garage, turned off the light, and listened as the quiet settled around me. It felt almost like peace. The snow began before sunrise, slow and patient, as if the sky had grown tired of holding it in. By the time I reached the cafe on Route 19, it had gathered along the edges of the road, softening the world into quiet shapes. The neon sign above the door hummed in the cold, throwing red light onto the wet pavement. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of coffee and burnt toast. The waitress nodded when she saw me, the kind of nod that didn't need words. She poured a cup and left it steaming in front of me. I took the booth by the window, same as always. Outside, the wind brushed across the glass, scattering flakes like dust. The sound reminded me of sanding wood, the rhythm steady and low, the kind that used to soothe me when I still worked with my hands. I held the cup, letting the heat seep into my palms. It had been a week since I mailed the letter. I hadn't heard from Evan or Melissa, but Tom had called twice. He said the refinance was frozen, that the bank was investigating the title. I told him to leave it be. I didn't need updates. I already knew what would come. The coffee was bitter too strong, but I drank it anyway. I needed something to hold on to. Mary's voice came back to me faint as the hum of the heater behind the counter. The last night we argued, she stood by the window just like this, looking out at a storm that hadn't yet arrived. "You don't have to win every battle. Harold," she'd said quietly. "Sometimes you just have to stay kind." I remember walking away, not out of anger, but because pride always spoke louder in those days. I thought being firm was the same as being right. The next morning she was gone. I never got to tell her she was right. My hand trembled on the cup. Maybe it was the cold, or maybe it was all the years I'd spent pretending the hurt had faded. The bell over the door jingled. A gust of cold followed Tom inside. He brushed snow from his coat and made his way to the booth. His hair was grayer than I remembered, but his eyes hadn't changed. He sat down without a word. "They froze it," he said finally. "The refinance. It's over." I nodded, staring into my cup. "They'll find out soon," Tom continued. "Might not like how it feels. Let's hope it teaches, not destroys," I said. He looked at me for a moment, then sighed. "You always had that faith in people even when they didn't deserve it." "It's not faith," I said. "It's memory." Tom smiled, a tired, crooked thing. "Well, memory's heavier than faith, I suppose." When he left, I stayed. The cafe had thinned out, the morning crowd gone. The waitress came over again, topped off my cup, and lingered for a second. "You look like a man carrying too much weight," she said softly. "Maybe I am," I answered. She smiled just a flicker and walked away. Through the window, I watched the snow fall thicker, covering the tire tracks, the curb, even the old road sign that used to point toward home. The world looked smaller from here, quieter. My phone buzzed once, Evan's name on the screen. 4 words. "We need to talk, Dad." I read it twice, then set the phone down beside the cup. The message stayed there, glowing faintly like a wound that hadn't healed. Outside, a man was clearing snow from his truck bed with a shovel, humming a tune I couldn't quite catch. He looked like he had nowhere to be, but still wanted to keep moving. Life, I thought, never waits for anyone to make peace. I paid for the coffee and stepped out into the cold. The snow fell harder now, pressing against my face, the kind that melted before it touched the skin. The wind carried the smell of pine and gasoline from the nearby station. The drive home was slow. The wipers dragged across the glass with a tired squeak, pushing away the white that kept coming back. I passed the church, its steeple barely visible against the gray sky. Farther down the field, where Evan once played baseball, was just a blank stretch of snow. No lines, no bases, no trace of memory, only the echo of a ball hitting wood and a boy's laughter carried by summer wind. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on. The glow reached just far enough to touch the edge of the yard. I stood there for a moment before unlocking the door. Inside the house was warm, almost too warm, as if it had been waiting for me to come back and breathe. The hammer still sat on the counter where I'd left it. I picked it up. The handle fit my hand perfectly, the wood smooth and familiar. I used to build with this, I thought. Now it just reminds me of what I tried to hold together. On the kitchen table, a framed photograph leaned against the wall. Mary and Evan, taken years ago at the lake. The glass had a small crack across one corner. I picked it up carefully, wiping away a thin layer of dust. Her smile was faint, but steady, the same one that could still quiet me even now. For a moment I thought about setting it down. Instead, I placed it upright, facing the room. The house felt still again. I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway, the soft whir of the refrigerator. Outside, the snow fell steady under the porch light, erasing every mark in the yard. Maybe justice isn't about being right. Maybe it's about remembering who you were before pride made you forget. I set the hammer beside the photograph, turned off the light, and stood there in the dark for a moment. The quiet didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt almost like forgiveness. The morning broke, pale and sharp, a thin crust of frost still clinging to the windows. The air in the garage was cold enough to make my breath visible, drifting in slow clouds above the old workbench. I sat there, the hammer beside me, its handle smooth from years of use. My hands moved without thinking, polishing the head of the tool I hadn't truly needed in years. There was something about keeping it clean that felt right, like tending to a truth that didn't rust. The quiet was my only company until it wasn't. The door slammed open, rattling the walls. Evan and Melissa stood there, their faces tight with fury. Melissa's hand clutched the mortgage letter like it was evidence in a crime. "You stopped the refinance," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "You sabotaged us." I looked at her for a moment before setting the hammer down gently. "I didn't sabotage you. I just reminded the world whose name keeps this roof above your heads." Evan stepped forward. He looked tired, older than I remembered. His voice came out quieter than hers, but the hurt in it was louder. "Dad, we weren't trying to cheat you. We just wanted a fresh start. Something that was ours." I nodded slowly. Independence doesn't come from erasing where you came from. Melissa crossed her arms, defiant. "You talk like this house is holy. It's just wood and nails." "No," I said, meeting her eyes. "It's years of calloused hands and long nights. It's where your husband learned to walk, and where he'll learn what kind of man he wants to be." She scoffed, shaking her head. "You always have to make it about you." I almost smiled. Maybe because it always has been. Evan's voice cracked when he spoke again. "I thought if I made it mine, maybe I'd stop feeling like I borrowed everything from you, even my life." The words hit harder than any anger could have. I looked at him, the same boy who once followed me through the yard with a toy hammer swinging at the air, laughing at every missed hit. Somewhere between those summers and this winter, he had built a wall between us, and I had let him. "You didn't borrow it," I said quietly. "You were part of the building. That's what families do. We build together even when we forget." For a moment, the garage fell silent, except for the slow ticking of the old wall clock. The space between us held every word we never said, every apology that came too late. Melissa broke it first. "So this is your justice," she said, "making us feel small." "Justice doesn't make people small," I told her. "It just shows them where they stand." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Evan stepped closer, his voice softer now. "Maybe we both forgot that," he said. I took a slow breath and reached into my pocket. The house keys felt heavy in my hand, colder than I expected. I placed them on the table. The sound was quiet, but it filled the room. "I'm not taking revenge," I said. "I'm taking back respect." Evan stared at the keys, his jaw tight, then turned away. I saw Mary in him for a second, the same quiet pride she had when she forgave without needing to say the words. For a heartbeat, I almost said I was sorry too. But the silence between us said enough. Melissa turned toward the door, her shoulders trembling with something that wasn't quite anger anymore. Evan lingered, his eyes darting between me and the keys. He didn't speak again, just nodded once before following her out. When the door closed, the cold slipped back in. I stood there looking at the empty space where they'd been. The hammer gleamed faintly under the light. I ran my thumb along the handle the way I used to when I was young, when every mark on it told a story of building not breaking. Inside the house, I could hear Lily's laughter drifting down the hall. It was light and pure, cutting through the heavy air, like the sound of spring breaking the last of winter. I closed my eyes for a moment and let it wash over me. I walked back inside. The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee and toast, the small comforts of a home still alive. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, keeping time for no one in particular. I stood by the window. The snow was melting streaks of brown earth, showing through the same color as the soil I'd turned decades ago, when I laid the foundation for this house. I remembered Mary standing in this very spot, hands on her hips, smiling as she said it would all be worth it one day. Maybe she was right. Justice doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't need to. It just stands there quietly waiting to be recognized. I picked up the keys again and placed them in the drawer beside the old photograph of her and Evan by the lake. The glass was cracked, but the image was still whole. The sunlight broke through the clouds, warm and soft, across the kitchen floor. For the first time in a long while, the house felt lighter. I exhaled and let the quiet take over. It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. The evening settled over the house like a blanket that did not quite fit. After a while, I turned off the kitchen light and went to bed. Sleep came in pieces, a handful of minutes here and there, never enough to feel like rest. By morning, the light had changed. It slid across the countertop in a thin band, no longer warm, just pale. The house felt like a place between days. Not mine, not theirs, something in the middle. I stood in the doorway of the garage for a long moment, looking at the workbench, the hammer resting where I had left it. The phone rang once, sharp in the quiet. I let it go. When it rang again, I walked back inside and picked up. Tom did not bother with hello. "They called me," he said. "Bank people. Lawyers. The whole machine. Thought you should know." I sat down at the kitchen table. The chair creaked under me. He went on. "The refinance pulled loose more than they counted on. Old debts, missed payments, the kind of things people tuck under rugs. Melissa lost her job. Officially, they call it restructuring. Off the record, you hear other words. Numbers off. Reports that do not line up." I stared at the salt shaker in front of me. A small thing, solid, useless in that moment. "You proud of this, Harold?" he asked. "No," I said. "Pride started all this. I am just trying to finish with some kind of peace." He was quiet after that, the line carrying only his breath and a faint echo of traffic from wherever he stood. "You leaving the house?" he asked at last. "I think it is time I stop haunting my own floorboards," I answered. He gave a soft grunt. "Call me if you need a hand. Or a truck." After we hung up, I walked through the rooms one by one. My hand brushed over the back of the couch, the edge of the counter, the door frame where the pencil marks still showed Evan at 8:10:12. It felt less like saying goodbye and more like releasing something I had been holding too tight. In the garage, I opened an old toolbox and lifted the hammer. The weight of it settled into my palm the way it always had. This thing had built the house one nail at a time. Now it would come with me, not as a tool, but as a reminder of what could be made when a man knew who he was. I did not sell the house. I put the deed in a safe deposit box and told Evan the place was his to live in with Lily if he wanted it. We did not talk about ownership. Paper had caused enough harm. A week later, I loaded my truck. Not much. Some clothes, a few tools. The photo of Mary with Evan at the lake. The radio from the kitchen. The hammer. The cabin by the lake waited at the end of a narrow road lined with bare trees. The lake itself lay under a sheet of dull ice, the surface quiet, but never truly still. The owner wintered down south and was glad to have someone pay a small rent and keep the pipes from freezing. Inside the cabin smelled of old wood and dust. I opened the small window over the sink. Cold air flooded in clean and sharp. It felt like starting over, not in the way young men talk about, but in the way old men survive. Days found a rhythm. I rose with the weak light, fed the small iron stove until it stopped complaining, brewed coffee on the old drip pot I had brought from the house. The radio on the counter crackled out local weather and country songs that sounded older than I was. Word slipped through town that I fixed things. A dock listing to one side, a porch with loose steps, a roof that sighed when the wind hit it wrong. People drove out with thermoses of coffee and boxes of nails asking if I had the time. I usually did. One morning as I tightened bolts on a neighbor's dock, he stood with his hands stuffed in his jacket pockets watching me work. His breath came out in white puffs. He said, "Folks in town say you stood your ground with your boy and his wife. You proud of how it shook out?" I kept my eyes on the wrench. "Pride does not interest me anymore," I said. "I just want to be able to sleep at night." He nodded slowly the way men do when they do not understand everything, but respect that you mean what you say. Time moved. Snow came again lighter this time. A thin sheet on the ground that crunched under my boots. I was in the small store in town one afternoon, buying sand for the path and a pack of cheap coffee when I saw Evan on the other side of the glass. He was getting out of an older car, not the truck he used to drive. He looked thinner, shoulders sloped. For a second, his eyes found mine through the window. He stopped. I did too. He lifted a hand, not quite a wave more, a simple recognition that I existed. I answered with a small nod. There were a dozen things a father might say in that moment. I let them all pass. We stayed on our separate sides of the glass and moved on. It felt like the only distance we could manage without breaking something. A few days later, I stood in line at the post office with a money order in my hand. The clerk, a woman with tired eyes and a kindness that did not need to be spoken, looked at the form. "You sending help?" she asked. "For my granddaughter," I said. She smiled. "That is the best kind there is." The amount was small. $50 would not change anyone's life. That was not the point. In the memo line, I wrote 3 words. "For Lily, not you." I did not sign my name. The envelope would carry enough truth without it. Back at the cabin, the afternoon leaned into gray. The lake made a low, cracking sound somewhere beneath the ice, like a tree branch giving under weight. I sat at the table by the window, hands wrapped around a mug gone lukewarm, and listened. When the mail truck finally came up the road some weeks later, the sound of its tires on the frozen ruts pulled me out of the half-sleep that comes with too much thinking. The driver left a small bundle in the box. I sorted through them at the table. Bill, circular, notice, and one envelope with my name on it in big, crooked letters that stretched from edge to edge. The return address was Evans. The handwriting was not. Inside was a folded sheet of printer paper, thick from heavy crayon. A house drawn with a child's certainty. Straight walls, red roof, blue windows. Smoke curling out of the chimney in orange spirals. Beside it, a tree with every color she could find pressed into its leaves. Above the roof, in letters too big for the space, she had written "Grandpa home strong" again. There was no other note. She did not need one. I felt the air leave my lungs all at once. My thumb pressed into the corner of the page, leaving a small crease. My eyes blurred and cleared and blurred again. One tear slid down before I managed to blink it away. It landed on the margin, a small, darker spot that dried almost as soon as it came. I stood and went to the toolbox by the wall. The hammer lay on top, the handle warm from the sun that had hit it earlier. I picked it up, the weight familiar, and found a nail in the tray beneath. I chose the spot beside the window where the light reached first in the morning. With 2 careful taps, the nail went into the wood. The cabin shuddered just slightly with the impact, as if remembering that walls can hold more than weather out. I hung the drawing there and stepped back. The colors looked almost out of place against the rough timber, too bright for winter, but they changed the room. The cabin felt less like a shelter and more like something that had a future. The stove ticked as the fire settled. The radio hummed a low murmur of voices I did not need to understand. Outside, the wind crossed the ice in long, steady breaths. I sat down again, the hammer still in my hand. For a long time, I just watched the way the fading sun caught the crayon lines, how the word "strong" seemed to stand up off the paper. Everything I had lost, everything they had lost, sat somewhere between that house on the page and the ones we had tried to hold on to in real life. Dignity is quiet. It does not make noise when you choose it. It makes noise only when you trade it away. I set the hammer gently back in the box and closed the lid. Then I looked up at the little house on my wall, bright and stubborn against the grain, and let the silence fill the room. It did not feel like emptiness anymore. It felt like the price had finally been paid. The cabin was quiet, the kind of quiet that has learned to breathe with you. Morning light slipped through the small window and brushed across the drawing on the wall. Lily's house. The colors had faded, but the crayon line still held. Every morning the light touched it first, as if reminding the place what it was for. I had been sanding the arm of an old chair, the one Evan broke when he was 16, trying to fix the sink without asking for help. The crack had been small then, but time widened it. I ran my thumb along the groove, smoothed it with care, and pressed a new dowel into place. The wood fit tight again, strong, where it had split. The radio mumbled from the counter, a local voice talking about weather moving in from the north. I turned it lower, poured a cup of coffee, and sat down. Outside, the lake was a sheet of dull silver. The season had turned. Leaves clung to the trees like thoughts not yet ready to fall. I had learned not to count days. Work filled the hours. A dock to mend a fence to level. People trusted my hands more than they trusted my words, and that was fine. Hands know their place in the world. Words tend to wander. That afternoon the wind changed. It carried the scent of dust and maple and something faintly familiar. Then I heard it the low growl of an engine, slow and sure, on the gravel road. My chest tightened before my mind caught up. I wiped the sawdust from my palms and stepped outside. The truck came into view, paint dulled by miles. Evan climbed out first. Lily followed her jacket bright against the gray air. The wind picked up her hair and threw it across her face. Evan stood still for a moment, then closed the door softly, as if the noise might break something. "Dad," he said. I nodded once. The word was enough. Lily ran toward me. Her boots left small prints in the dirt. She pressed her head against my chest. "You didn't come see my play," she said. "So we came here instead." I smiled and held her. The world felt smaller in that instant and easier to carry. "Well, I said, looks like you brought the better show." She laughed, the sound cutting through the cold like light. Evan came closer, his steps careful. His face had changed. Older, yes, but quieter somehow. The weight he carried sat differently now. "We've been working," he said. "On the house, and other things." Inside, I poured coffee into 2 mugs and cocoa into a chipped cup. The stove ticked as it cooled. Evan turned something in his hand and set it on the table between us. A key, plain and silver. "We rebuilt it," he said. "The wiring, the roof, the debt. Took a while, but it's done right this time." He looked at me, not proud, just steady. I wanted to change everything he said, make it mine. But I realized the house wasn't what needed fixing. I was. The key lay there, catching the thin light from the window. "You don't need to give it back," I said. "I'm not," he answered. "I just wanted you to know there's a place with your name on it. This time it means what it should." I picked up the key. It felt cold at first, then warm in my palm. "A house is just wood and wires," I said, "until respect holds it together." He nodded, the motion small but full. "I'm sorry, Dad. For all of it. For forgetting who built the ground I was standing on." I met his eyes. For a long time, neither of us looked away. Years of words we hadn't said moved quietly between us, then settled. Lily had been drawing at the end of the table. When she looked up, she grinned. "We fixed it too, Grandpa." "The house. It's nicer now. That's the best kind of fix," I told her. She pulled a folded card from her pocket and handed it to me. "Don't open it yet," she said. When they stood to leave, the air outside had softened. Sunlight spilled through the thinning trees, turning the lake to gold. The wind tugged at the last leaves, carrying them in slow spirals down the hill. Evan held out his hand. I took it. His grip was firm, not to prove anything, only to hold what had nearly been lost. "We'll come back," he said. "If that's all right?" "You know where the door is," I told him. Lily hugged me again, then climbed into the truck. She waved until they turned down the road and vanished behind the trees. The sound of the engine faded until only the wind remained. Inside, I sat at the table and unfolded her card. The letters sprawled across the page in bright crayon colors. "You're not useless, Grandpa. You're home." Beneath the words, she had drawn a stick figure with a hammer in one hand and a little house behind him standing straight. I looked up at the real drawing on the wall, the one from last winter, and smiled. Then I glanced toward the toolbox by the window. The lid was half open, and when the wind moved through the cabin, it lifted just enough to let the hammer inside give a faint metallic sound. Like a breath. Like something remembering. I closed the card and pinned it beside the old drawing. The two houses stood side by side now, one fading, one new. Outside, the lake shifted in the light. The sky was pale and endless. A single leaf touched the water and drifted out, carried by a ripple that moved without hurry. I poured what was left of the coffee into my cup and walked to the porch. The wood was warm beneath my hand. I sat down and watched the light slide across the water, slow and patient, the way forgiveness always moves. Somewhere behind me, the hammer settled again in its box, quiet now. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the world fall into place. Everything was exactly where it was meant to be.